As you know, I come to the floor maybe once a month when we're in session, and I talk about folks that are part of the team at the Department of Homeland Security. And there are about 225,000 of them. And what I do every month is we pick on a couple of them. And we pick on a part of the Department of Homeland Security that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention. I just want to say, as the presiding officer leaves, I just want to say to him, happy Thanksgiving. But I want to, tonight, if I can, the time that I have, just to start off by saying this. I've been doing this, Madam President, now for 2 years, come to the floor, talk about different people who've done just amazing things for all of us and part of the Department of Homeland Security. And we'll recall the Department of Homeland Security didn't even exist when I first came here in 2001. It was created on the heels of 9/11. And we took about 22 disparate agencies and kind of glommed them together, and they all had something to do with Homeland Security. And the department has struggled at times to try to be a coherent, collegial, productive organization. I think they're hitting their stride, and they're proud of the work that they do. But there's more than 230,000 employees of the Department of Homeland Security around the country and around the world. And they do some of the most difficult, some of the most diverse work that's done in our federal government. Anywhere from protecting against cyber attacks, got plenty of that going on, to helping communities recover from natural disasters. Unfortunately, we have a lot of that going on as well with FEMA helping out, to securing our borders, our ports of entries. The Department of Homeland Security faces great challenges as it carries out its mission of protecting all of us as we go about our daily lives. As most people know, the United States Secret Service, the United States Secret Service is charged primarily with protecting the president and the vice president and their families 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When I was a kid growing up, I thought that was all they do. And as it turned out, there's a whole lot more that they do. But that is a huge challenge, especially in a presidential year like this, when you had all these people running for president, mostly in the Republican Party, but some in our party too. And as all those candidates are traveling around this nation, going hither and yon, and the Secret Service is there trying to keep them all safe and their families too, and doing it on a pretty regular basis. So this becomes a lot harder. Their job, this part of their job, becomes a lot harder during a presidential election year. The men and women of the Secret Service worked this year thousands of hours of overtime in this campaign cycle. They did it in order to provide protection for every candidate who needed it, whether Republican or whether independent. And they did this, the Secret Service did this while continuing to perform other special protection duties, such as the massive task of securing the United Nations General Assembly. Just think, in September, converging on New York City, at the United Nations, we have leaders of over 100 different nations around the world. And the job of protecting them and keeping them safe falls largely on, not entirely, but largely on the Secret Service. And this required significantly longer hours and weeks at a time on the road and away from their families for many agents, and all while standing ready at a moment's notice to thrust themselves into harm's way should their duty require it. So I'm enormously proud of the work done by the Secret Service during this election season. And their work to ensure our candidates' personal safety and to protect them from harm also helps protect our democracy and ensuring that the American people have the final say on who will be our next president and our next vice president. The agency, Secret Service agency, is a critical part of ensuring the peaceful transition of power from one duly elected leader to the next. And for all these reasons, it's urgent that Congress do what it needs to do to ensure that the Secret Service agents who have worked so hard in recent months receive the pay that they've earned and deserve. A pay limit in current law, unfortunately, prevents that from happening at the moment for those agents who are owed overtime compensation. I support efforts in this year's House and Senate Appropriations bill to address that issue and to make our Secret Service agents whole. And I'm hopeful that a fix to this problem can be included in any final spending bill that we take up during the final week of this year. The demanding work done by the men and women of the Secret Service exemplifies the term public servant, as they put their lives on the line every day to protect our president, our vice president, candidates for those offices, regardless of party or politics. And even during the busy presidential campaign like the one we've just gone through, every division of the Secret Service, every division, despite the added strains, continues to exceed expectation through their ongoing work. And while many of us know of the Secret Service's duty to protect the president, relatively few of us know of the important work done behind the scenes by countless others across the Secret Service, two of whom I'm proud to highlight tonight. One of them is called the Uniform Division of the Secret Service. And what do they do? Well, they protect the White House. They protect the grounds of the White House 24/7. They ensure that the people's house is not just secure for our president and their families, but secure for the guests, the staff, and visitors. I have no idea how many people visit the White House every year, but I know it's in the hundreds of thousands, and maybe more, maybe even in the millions. But a lot of people go there from all over the world as visitors. And one of the things that the Uniform Division of the Secret Service does is helps to make sure that when they go there, they are safe. They are safe. And one uniformed division officer who has lived her entire life in the service of others is a woman named Codie Hughes. Codie Hughes, C-O-D-I-E. Officer Hughes joined the Secret Service 12 years ago. And as a uniform, here's her picture right here. You can guess which one she is. Here with the secretary and with Deputy Secretary Ali Mayorkas on my far left, your far right. But as a uniformed officer with the White House branch, Officer Hughes is charged with securing one of the most iconic public buildings in the world, the White House. In the past 3 years alone, she made more than 45 arrests while patrolling the areas around the White House, including one person who was wanted by the FBI for previously making threats against law enforcement officers. And since 2013, Officer Hughes has helped save the lives of not one, not two, but three people who needed her help. And when a man collapsed in the White House before meeting with the president, Officer Hughes administered CPR before the man was revived with a defibrillator. Similarly, earlier this year, when Officer Hughes found a man collapsed on the street outside the White House without a pulse, she administered CPR until medics arrived. And last year, most remarkably, when Officer Hughes happened upon two detectives in her hometown of Leesburg, Virginia, administering CPR to an unconscious man, she quickly identified herself as a Secret Service agent and offered to help. And along with the detectives, Officer Hughes administered CPR until medics could respond. So here's her picture, and as I said earlier, she's shown here with the Secretary of the Department, Jay Johnson, who's done a great job, Ali Mayorkas, Deputy Secretary, who's done a terrific job, and the fellow who's the Director of the Secret Service for several years now, Joe Clancy, who by everybody's acknowledgement has done a very good job, provided wonderful leadership. But this photograph represents a time not long ago when she received the Secretary's Award from the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And it is I think the highest honor that can be presented by the Secretary of the Department. And it's the Exceptional Service Gold Medal for her, quote, extraordinary bravery, saving numerous lives both on and off duty, close quote. Well-deserved award for an exemplary public official. Codie, congratulations. Officer Hughes currently serves as an instructor at the Secret Service Training Academy, teaching new agents how to respond to stressful situations while maintaining their composure at all times. I can think of few people better prepared to serve in this position than Codie Hughes. While Officer Hughes is off duty, she continues her service to others as a volunteer with the Leesburg, Virginia Fire Company. And for nearly 10 years, she's worked on her own time to make a difference in her community and protect her neighbors during fire and other emergencies. So to Codie Hughes, again, we say, Codie, thank you for the example that you have set for so many others at the Department of Homeland Security, in your community, in Leesburg, and across our country. Thank you, Codie. Another true public servant within the Secret Service is a fellow named Tate Jarrow, rhymes with arrow. And he's a special agent. And Tate's pictured here to my left. Looks like a young fellow, but after graduating from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, Special Agent Jarrow served 5 years as an Army infantry officer, achieving the rank of captain before joining the Secret Service. And Mr. President is an old Navy guy, retired Navy captain. This is an Army captain, And I feel like I should say Navy salutes Army, and Navy does salute Army. So I like to say people like to kid folks in different services and take shots at one another in a fun-loving way. But I always say to my friends in the Army who are kidding me about being in the Navy, I always say, different uniforms, same team. So we're just lucky that we're on the same team with this fellow. But he's a special agent, and Tate is a special agent in the New York Electronic Crimes Task Force, and he has worked to protect millions of Americans from large-scale financial fraud. And while fraud and counterfeit investigations are one of the Secret Service's lesser-known tasks, the growth and scope and scale of cyber crimes makes Agent Jarrow's work more important than ever. After one of the largest data breaches in history compromised the information of nearly 100 million people, Special Agent Jarrow worked with the forensics investigators and the FBI to track down the hackers and stop them from using the information to perpetrate a large-scale stock manipulation scheme. Special Agent Jarrow's work brought to justice 3 men who not only stole this information, but were also stealing more than $100 million using various illegal enterprises that preyed on innocent people around the world. In another case, Special Agent Jarrow shut down a criminal enterprise that used investment fraud, credit card fraud, identity theft, and computer hacking in stealing more than $250 million. $250 million from some 600,000 Americans and thousands of other people around the world. And his work helped put away the culprits, sending the ringleader to jail, I think, for 20 years or more. Special Agent Jarrow has been described by his colleagues as, this is a quote, one of the most preeminent cyber investigators in the federal government. Now, that's really saying something, because we have some terrific ones in NSA, National Security Agency, and the Department of Homeland Security, and elsewhere. So that's high praise. And while they say that Special Agent Jarrow is quiet, they say he's humble in person, he is dogged. He is dogged in his pursuit of the bad guys. And unfortunately, there are plenty of them out there. The American people, their information, and their hard-earned savings are all safer thanks to Tate's efforts to go after the bad guys who prey on hardworking Americans online. This October, I guess about a month ago, Special Agent Jarrow was honored by Secretary Jay Johnson, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, with the Secretary's Silver Medal Award for his work with the New York Electronic Crimes Task Force. And shortly after that, the Partnership for Public Service awarded Special Agent Jarrow with the Call to Service Award, one of its prestigious, they call them SAMmy Awards, that go to talented federal servants for outstanding service to us, to the American people. The Secret Service is full of women and men like Codie Hughes and Tate Jarrow, who have dedicated their lives to serving others on the job and off the job. The work done by them and others like them, especially over these past 18 months by thousands of men and women in the United States Secret Service, is a shining example of public service at its best. And while many of us can't get swept away in the politics of the day or the latest headlines or the latest tweet, there are countless public servants across the Department of Homeland Security who wake up every morning and they go to work on behalf of us, the American people. And their dedication, their service, their sacrifice continues to move our country forward. So to Officer Hughes, to Special Agent Jarrow, all their colleagues at the United States Secret Service, we thank you for your unwavering dedication, your long hours, tireless service to our President, to our Vice Presidents, to our families, and really to the American people. All of us here in this chamber and countless others around the country are better servants thanks to your hard work and shining example. In closing, I should acknowledge the fact that despite the excellent work I've detailed in these remarks, the Secret Service has faced its share of challenges in recent years. But this work, the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security, this week rather, the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security issued a new report praising a number of steps that the agency, the Secret Service agency, has been taking to make needed improvements. And these the improvements are thanks in part to the exceptional work of rank-and-file personnel like Officer Hughes and Agent Jarrow, and also to the strong leadership of Director Clancy, Secretary Johnson, Deputy Secretary Mayorkas, and others to ensure that the Secret Service, who've been committed to ensuring that the Secret Service remains the finest protection agency in the world.